I was selling a portrait drawing lessons. So how to draw a proportionate face with eyes, nose.
How to draw faces?
Yeah, that's it.
And why would somebody need to know how to draw faces?
Because it's so fun.
Well,
Yeah. Well, basically, they want to draw their loved ones and make gifts to them, and draw sometimes their dead friends and things like that. It's really personal. It's about processing emotion and feeling good.
so is this a personal thing, or do they or is this something like, people draw and then sell it, or is it just more of like a
Really
personal
like
hobby?
about entertainment. Most of them are retired ladies who finally take time for themselves.
So Dan, one of the big issues that we're talking about is that people seem to be dropping off in the first 5 minutes of the webinar, and they're not really watching the replay either.
Well, I mean, there's always going to be a drop. That graph there looks completely normal to me. Most people, or not most, but a good chunk of people are going to drop off in the first 5 minutes. I mean, that's just the game, Let me ask you this. First of all, is this a live or automated webinar?
Well, this one is automated. Right now, I'm having about 1% conversion. If I look at the registrant, which are 900 people up to now, it's 100% of conversion. But when I'm on live, that I'm doing most on Facebook, it's about 17% of conversion. People stick around quite long at the end as well.
So what's the offer price?
$295 for about 1 month of drawing with pre-recorded modules and live classes every week.
Okay. And are you giving them what's the reason you're giving them to stick around till the end?
Well, I'm telling them they're going to have a cheat sheet about how to draw realistic eyes. And I will show them a progression in 6 steps from beginning to professional drawings.
And so the problem here is that, first of all, have you run a didn't buy survey?
People did not reach yet the end of the sequence because I've been running it for 12 days right now. So they are about.
You haven't even got people out of the email sequence.
Sorry?
You haven't even got people out of the launch sequence yet.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you this. What bonus are you giving on the webinar that gets taken away at the end of the webinar?
Well, they get a color book with 10 faces that they can work with the shadows on, and they have additional workshops, pre-recorded workshops to draw different faces and different angles.
And this is that's a bonus in the offer that gets taken away if they don't buy on the webinar, right?
Yeah.
And you say you have to buy by the end of this webinar to get those bonuses?
But most people, they don't get to the part where I say that because they are just going away before this.
So you got, let's see, 13%. How long? When do you get to the call? When do you get to the offer pitch?
It's about 50 minutes, 52 minutes, something like that. Just after this.
Is that when you get to the offer or to the price?
The price with the offer stack. I am explaining the stack before. Maybe it's too long. I take about 5.
Well, another thing is $297 is a very low price to do a webinar.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening a lot is it's just too long of a process to grab a measly $300.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for instance, my webinar converted at 1%, and I bought a $2 million house from that, but it was also $997.
Yeah.
So when you have a 1%, 1 to 2% is normal for an automated webinar. I mean, yeah, it's not as much as a live webinar, but you're not a robot. You can't do a live webinar 24 hours a day. So, for me, if I'm charging $297, I'm not going to do a webinar. I'm just going to do a sales video or something, because it's just not worth it. I mean, you're basically bringing out this huge, army to for like one guy, you know, it's like, it's just overkill. But I have seen a ton of webinars really nail down that $297 price point and make a lot of money. So it's definitely possible, but it's, you really have to nail the webinar. Like, it has to be really good. My question to you, what are your three, because like we're talking about, you know, percentages and all this stuff. I don't think about, like, I think more like, oh, there we go. Okay. Beautiful drawings. You don't need talent.
You know, I wonder if you're teaching too much also.
Yeah, this sounds very like teachy and very, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, like this is, you're going way too deep. You're like basically teaching them.
Teaching and I'm talking as I'm
kind of, yeah, you need to inspire them that they can do it with your instruction, but not necessarily show them.
That's the problem. If you teach stuff, it's going to be very hard to sell it, because here's what happens, right? When somebody learns something on a webinar, and not I don't say learn something, but when they learn something very in the weeds, the first thing that they want to do is go try it first. They don't want to buy your stuff. They want to go try it.
Right.
So like, for instance, why would somebody, tell me again why somebody would want to draw faces?
Well, they want to draw their family portrait or a picture of their friend and make it resemblant. Most of the time it's for emotional reasons.
And this is based on your market research?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say, I would, and again, this is not me like digging real deep into it. I haven't looked at your research or any of that, but I would say something like a potential secret could be something like, why drawing your family members is the number one way to heal from a loss. Not, you know, drawing the structure of a human face, nose and mouth, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? That's a secret I would do. I would do like, you know, why drawing your loved ones is the number one way to get over. Do you get what I'm saying? Because that's what
it could be like, it's the best way to reduce your stress or to ease your anxiety.
Right. So let me kind of like break that down for you. So, and I'm just gonna make this up because I don't know anything about drawing. I can't. I don't know if you guys have ever seen me draw on a whiteboard, but it ain't pretty. But this is what I would say. I would say something, and this is me just randomly making stuff up. Have you ever heard of the man John Smith? John Smith was a researcher into emotional distress. And he did an interesting study years ago where he found that, you know, there was that people over 40 that lose their parents take at least a decade to get over it. A decade. You know, and I would start like going into how essentially what you want to say is you want to pull out all the methods of getting over a loved one, like pills, therapy, all that stuff. And then you say, you know, but then like contrast it to drawing and why drawing actually helps them get over that loss of a loved one better. But you got to do it in a story, right? So I don't know enough about your industry, but maybe there's a famous story in a magazine about somebody who got over their loved one after 10 years by taking up drawing, and you tell their story, right? And then you say that, because you don't want to make the whole secret like, based on this research, you know, people are 40% more likely, because people don't hear that. Right? They that goes in one ear and out the other. But if you tell a story and then you just throw in there some data statistics to back it up, that validates the story. They don't remember the statistics. They just remember that you validated it. They remember the story and they think about that person and they say, I lost a loved one. Maybe I should take up drawing. You see what I'm saying? So what I would do is I would come up with, why drawing, like secret number one, why drawing is the fastest way to get over the love of a lost one, the pain of a lost one or whatever, right? And so that's your vehicle. Drawing portraits of a lost loved one is your vehicle to feeling better, because they don't want to draw, they want to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're teaching them how to draw on the webinar. That's why they're not buying. They're not there to draw. They're there to feel better. Drawing just happens to be the way to do it. So now secret number 2 and 3 are answers to the objection of, well, that sounds great, but I can't draw.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But looking at your secrets, you can cut your drawing time in 2 by breaking down practice into a small piece. I show how to draw eyes, nose, and mouth. No, you got to totally scrap that. Like, you got to go way higher level. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, a lot actually.
There's a story that I saw on like 60 Minutes, I think a couple years ago, about somebody that draws faces for families of veterans who were killed in combat. You might be able to find that story and pull from that.
Yeah. That's what I would do. So when I do webinars, I tell my assistant, I'm like, find me a story that illustrates this. Find me a story that illustrates that. Find me, so in my book, when I talked about the Kickstarter campaign, I said, hey, I already got a story about this poet that, raised money and blah, blah, blah. Can you find me some company or something that did something where they raised money before they made it? And my assistant goes, well, what about Kickstarter? I'm like, oh, of course. And I'm like, go find me the origin story of Kickstarter. How did they make the company? What, and she went and she submitted this report to me, and that's how I found out about them, doing the DJ thing and eventually making Kickstarter. So that's what I would do. And I will tell you this, as I've, do you want some advice from somebody who's already done 15 million doing this stuff? Not a million, not 500,000, not 10,000, because let me just tell you, the more you do, just like a football player, right? If you ask Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, well, rest in peace, Kobe, but if you ask them a question about basketball 20 years ago, they're probably going to give you a different answer than they would today, because they have more time to reflect back on what really works and what doesn't. And not so much what really works and what doesn't, but the reason why it works. And the older I get in this industry, the more I really see. And would you like me to tell you my perspective on it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so here's my perspective. All these numbers here and these percentages don't mean shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What really matters is just doing it better. Everybody always wants to talk about, the software, the percentages and the contingencies and the email and my open rates. And yeah, those things are very tiny brushstrokes that can help. But at the end of the day, if your webinar is not converting, it's probably because it's just not good enough, period. If your emails aren't converting, they're probably it's not that you're doing it it's not that you're not using the right system. It's not that you're not using the right template. You're not using the right script. It's just that you have the script. It's the right script. It's the right template. It's the right approach, but you're just not doing it good enough, period. And nobody wants to admit that, because we get programmed in the internet marketing industry to believe that, it's just a secret. It's just a script, and it's this easy system. And that's a lie. The truth is that, there are some systems and scripts and approaches that work better than others, but at the end of the day, it's how good you do it. Just like in drawing, right? The longer you draw, the more times you draw, you get better at it. Mm-hmm. And some people are better than others. So what I'm telling you is you've got the system down here, you've got the structure, but it's got to be better. And when I say better, I'm talking you tell a great story that illustrates why somebody would want to. Your job is to inspire them on this webinar to take up drawing, because they want to get over the loss of a loved one. Once they are fully committed to taking up drawing, now you sell them the product that allows them to execute on that drawing. So I don't know what your RMS is, but it should be, I help grieving, something like I help grieving people get over the love of a lost one without expensive therapy or drugs by taking up portrait drawing. And if you can convince people that portrait drawing is the best way to do that, you sell them the product that allows them to execute on that thing. If you're teaching them how to draw in the webinar, you're all bass backwards, because now you're teaching them how to do the thing that you say they need to do to get, no, you inspire them. The whole goal of the webinar is to convince them or inspire them that portrait drawing is what will get them what they want. Then you sell them the product that allows them to actually execute on that. You first sell them on the path, then you sell them on the way to execute the path. Does that make sense?
Total sense, yes.
Yeah. This is why offer creation and messaging is the most important part of this. And it's funny because so many people don't want to join this program because like, well, let me get my offer figured out first. And I'm always like, but that's the part you need the most help with, you know? But this is the way I would go about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is if this is truly the reason why people are doing this,
mm-hmm.
then that would be the way I would play it.
All
now,
right.
if you're going after existing people that draw and they want to get better at drawing because of whatever reason, or because they want to sell their drawings, well, that's a different thing. You know, I mean, you could easily teach somebody how to, or maybe this is an upsell. You could literally teach somebody how to draw portraits so they can go to like they could charge, like for instance, right? You know how much money is in funerals and funeral services and add-ons? You could teach somebody how to draw portraits and sell that service to a funeral home where they would draw a portrait of a loved one. In fact, I think I've seen it done. And, you know, that's a potential future progression for you, you know, down the line. And you could charge a lot more for that. You know, that would be like more high ticket. But there are so many ways. My point is not that you should do that. My point is that there are so many ways you can approach selling a drawing course. But if what you're telling me is true in terms of the reasons why they want to draw, then this is the way I would do it.
Totally.